Hello, Liezl. Welcome to the video, the Zoom video. Yes, we had a bit of a mishap this morning. It was supposed to be in Facebook Live, but that didn't work out as well as we planned. But essentially what we'll do is I'll download this video and share it on YouTube. And then we've got, you can share it to all our social media as well. But I mean, yes, the live element would be great because then we could at least do some live chatting as well.
Yeah.
But just recently I joined you. Please, let's first kick off with that. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, first of all, thanks, Kevin, for having me. And so basically, my name is Liezl Reid, and I'm the owner of Shapeshifter Consulting, where I do predominantly coaching work at the moment, and I do also HR advisory services. And I predominantly work with small business owners, and I also work with postgraduate students and with entrepreneurs and freelancers who needs a space to think and to basically grow their services, grow their business, and think a little bit out of the box.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's me.
Straight off the bat, when you say give people a chance to think, most people go, yeah, but I'm already thinking. So what the hell do you mean? And I think that's key because according to today's society, like we mentioned earlier, people are sort of stuck. So tell us more about that.
So when I say I provide people a time with a space to think, I mean quality thinking. Yes, we are all thinking. We're constantly thinking now, but it doesn't mean you're thinking quality thoughts and quality perspectives that could actually help you move forward and develop a plan or path that would grow you as a person, your business, or just as a member of society. So when I do provide a thinking space, it's just basically asking you the tough questions, asking you questions that you not normally on a day-to-day basis would ask yourself, or your friends and family wouldn't necessarily ask you all the time, like, what's your values? How does this feed into your purpose? And I basically focus a lot on one of the design thinking techniques of divergent thinking. So I look at trying to broaden your horizons of thinking and trying to find alternatives or possibilities or options that are there, but you just haven't discovered it just yet.
And I think, like you were saying now, is one of the often conversations that I have about just the stress factor about what's happening. People often don't realize that they're going through something until they actually sit down and think about it. Because we often, we get in such a rut, we get into such the usual spiral of I need to get busy, I need to get stuff done, I need to sort out the children and whatever. You get to that sort of rat race kind of mentality, and people are even doing it, caught up at home currently, and they don't take the time to actually sit down and contemplate and just really redefine. And from my background, from how we sort of look at doing a process with someone, people don't know how to put information together until you show them how to put information together. They usually kind of just go, well, this is what I normally do, and this is so I think that works. But when you break it down into some practical steps, it's really just gives people brain language to say, yes, okay, cool. So that lends itself to that, and it sort of gives a nice process. And I think that's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation as well, because you also give people, I know with your workshop that you're doing, that's exactly what you do. Tell us more about that.
So that's exactly why I designed the Think Shop that you attended last week, because before this lockdown and before the pandemic, I used to run physical workshops where I used to go to a venue and there would be people in front of me and we could interact and actually engage in real time. And then I realized when you're talking about the rat race, is that the rat race before the time was I was quite very in tune to that. And when I set up my workshops in the physical world, I was adamant not to make it look corporate-y. I mean, my first workshops were held in an old farmhouse in a pizza bistro that was basically converted into
the perfect spot.
and I mean, I dressed it up with my little lamp and my Persian carpet to make it feel a bit more homely and make it feel like a different space, so that I can get people out of the business context and into a neutral space that they're not used to get them to think of new perspectives. So that's kind of what I realized, is that with this rat race, you're calling it, I mean, before the lockdown, we were following a different rat race. We were running a completely different rat race, making sure our clients are sorted, making sure the income's coming in, making sure that our daily productivity is always to a super stress level high all the time. And all of a sudden we're into this lockdown and we're following a different rat race. Some of it is still remnants of the life prior to this, where you say the emails are still coming in. There are still some of us that are fortunate to still continue with our work. So the client emails, your bosses may be emailing you. There's still expectations and that needs to be adhered to. But we're now facing different challenges where the rat race starts becoming children, like my children are now online, are completely online educational platform learners now, which is a completely new ball game. It's
my daughter's doing exactly the same. She's like, I'm really liking it. I don't even have to get dressed in my school uniform.
But the thing is, they can't do it. They're not completely independent. So we now all of a sudden have to break our day up into pieces and say, okay, now we are being the home school teacher / school IT technician. Then we're going to be on our own company, on our platforms. We are hosting time for our clients to think, still producing some services and quality services, hopefully. And then we're still adapting as a human. We're still adapting as a business owner. We're adapting as employees. We are adapting as just humans in a completely, almost like it's a crisis world in the moment. And like I speaking to you about in the Think Shop last week, was that we are going through a sense of loss. We're going through almost like the grievance cycle, where in the beginning it was panic, and then it was that whole denial, and then it was the depression kicked in when we realized we are in this now. And then it was almost like trying to get yourself out of that slump and that demotivated, almost depressed state, and trying to get some energy back into your everyday life and trying to find a new normal. So that's exactly what I was trying to do by I thought to myself, okay, I did this before, so what is stopping me from doing this now? Present, so I can be virtually present now, hopefully. And it also introduced a myriad of challenges. Like really, it was just so tough to actually realize it's a risk-taking procedure, operation too. I mean, is it going to work? Are my content actually going to come across as strongly as it did before? Are the people on the other side of the screen actually going to understand what is this person talking about? And so it's all that risk-taking and adaptability. And the thing is that at the end of the day, my big function, or my big purpose to that Think Shop was giving someone or people just that hour to 2 hours of time to just think. I'm going to ask you these questions, and it's your time now. Don't forget about the outside world and all the different hats you're wearing, but it's time to really think quality thoughts right now. Doesn't matter how hard it is, so that we can get some form of movement happening.
And I think if you had to sort of give us maybe a sort of a set sort of idea of what the workshop sort of entails, how do you break it down, and why do you go through that process? And just give us a little bit more tidbits. So I mean, if people watch this video, then at least they can get into contact, they can find out more, and they can understand what's sort of going to be in the actual process.
So basically, I look at exploring various possibilities. I try and ignite some form of thinking. But before
Yeah.
you even get to that thinking, there's quite a few precursors, or almost like your environment needs to be conducive to this sort of thinking that needs to happen. So the environment that you're in is absolutely crucial. Your environment being your physical environment. So is it a comfortable space? Is it a space that inspires you? Is it quiet? Does it allow you? In my case, as you can see my bookcase in the background, I love maximalist. I love clutter and things. That makes me actually feel very comfortable. For other people, it might be a space where it's completely minimalist, where there shouldn't be anything in the room. That gives them that free thinking. So it's the environment needs to be comfortable for you. You need to feel relaxed, because also your emotional well-being and your emotional thoughts and your mindset is also very, very important. So if you're too anxious, try and see if you can center yourself. So that's why with the Think Shop, I started with and also the article that I wrote on the blog, I said, just take a breath and let your mind wander, because it's just to get yourself to ground yourself, so that you can just calm, and then with more of a stable emotional state, even though the anxiety is there, you can actually really focus on the thought that's happening at the moment. And also the thing is that you need to be open to the experience. So being open to, okay, I am going to try this. Yes, it's risky. The same with our trying to do this on Facebook Live. It's a risk that was taken. We were open to the experience. And it's not a failure or anything. It's just we are now learning to adapt and say, okay, next time, what else do I need to do? Or what more can I do? But if you're going to be like, oh, this is an absolute nightmare, I can't do this ever again, this is a failure, you're most likely not going to try it again. So it's almost that mindset. You need to get into the proper mindset. And then also make sure that you are in the right state of the change process. Are you ready for change, or are you still stuck with trying to understand what is going on? So therefore, I always start with right at the bottom by acknowledging the now. So what is going on? Look at your environment. Feel how you are feeling, and actually take it into account. Say, listen, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling demotivated, I'm feeling tired, but it's okay. It's fine. That is the foundation. Acknowledge the now and where you're currently finding yourself. So that's the start.
I'm glad you're mentioning 2 points that I've just written down here. Is I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Not familiar, but I will definitely look up
So,
after.
if you take him out, he speaks about how important thoughts are, and I think this is, it lends itself so well to what you're saying. Is from a study that he's done, he shows that we think up to 60,000 thoughts in just a day. The curious part about that is up to 80% of what we were thinking in this day is probably going to be similar thoughts to what we're thinking about tomorrow. So very often we create, and unwillingly and unknowingly, we create a habit-formed way of thinking. And if we don't challenge that, and we really get our brains to go, okay, hang on, if I know that as a statistic, for example, and I put myself into an environment where I'm actually given an opportunity to actually rethink or recreate my moments and my future and what this means for me, I think that also then enables people far more than it becoming a disability or disabling moment or debilitating moment for them. So I'm thinking, just with regards to a stat like that, thoughts really do have sort of impact on every single thing we do. We just, as human beings, don't necessarily consciously get involved or actively get involved with our thinking process. So I'm thinking, it really lends itself to exactly what you're busy doing, because essentially, if we're thinking the same thoughts we thought yesterday, how the hell will we ever get to those, a different type of approach or a different possibility or any of that? Mm. And I also think I'm just looking at the Kubler-Ross change curve Are you aware of that? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where they speak about the shock, denial, frustration, depression,
Yes.
experimental. And I think because of the time period, a lot of people are still frustrated and they've got to a sort of a depressed moment and
Yeah.
feeling quite stuck. And I think this workshop really lends itself because it becomes experimental and it really gets you to start touching on things that you may not even know that you're aware of, or you could be aware of.
Exactly. And it lends you to actually, or invites you to actually see things now from a different perspective. I mean, when I was speaking to you a bit earlier off camera, I mean, I was saying to you how this sort of platform and being able to just function in front of a camera almost all day.
Yeah, because this is not something you do, right? This is not something, and look where you are now.
I mean, 3 weeks ago, if you had to tell me that I was going to speak to you on Zoom and it's going to be posted, I mean, I've had various encounters now that's gone publicly on my platforms where I'm on a camera, I'm speaking. 3 weeks ago, I would have laughed at you. I would have said to you, there's no way. I don't have the personality. I don't have the confidence. And what would I actually say on camera that I would be happy about? And, you know, eventually I just realized, but so the technique that I actually want to talk to you guys about, or to talk to you about, that I could share with your platform, and that was what came out of the Think Shop. And so I find it such a powerful tool or technique, whichever way you want to consider it, is called reframing. So it's trying to find the different perspective. So that's exactly my purpose with the Think Shop, is that you say with a Kubler-Ross curve, we are in the frustrated, depressive state, and then people they go into that change process where they are now realizing there is an issue, there is a problem, I'm stuck in it, it's not going away, but what is still in my control? What can I still control? And when you frame that in a way that they go, so there is still a choice, I've got choices still, and there are still opportunities. The experimentation phase could really kick in and say, you know, I'm ready to experiment something. It might be a risk. It's the same. I'm going to use my example here. Is in that first week of lockdown, I was still saying to my husband, I don't know how I'm going to continue working. I love seeing my clients. I used to see them on a face-to-face basis in my little studio where we are now. I used to go out to coffee shops or to their organizations and meet them at their place. The workshops as well, physical setting. How am I going to translate this all? So I just thought it was the end. It was absolutely the end. I may as well just pack my bags now and just close my shop or close my company. And then I thought, okay, I try and expertise in this whole divergent thinking process. So maybe let's see if I could do it to myself in my own company and see if this could really work. So then I had to go sit down and think, okay, great. This is where I am. This is the areas I can't control. I can't go out my house. I can't go see my clients. But how could I be able to still see them and add value to their services and everything like that? So then I had to go look, what is still in my control? And then I realized that virtual, something so like we're always on social media, but this could be used as a different platform, a different way of using. So I use social media for connecting with friends and as a form of entertainment or disconnecting from my thoughts. Now I'm actually using it to grow my business and to add value to society. And it was just about adapting. It's about trying out and taking a risk every now and then. But it's all about reframing. So where you feel that it's basically the end of the world, not necessarily. No. What else is there if you had to take that challenge and turn it up on top of its head, or you look at it from a different angle or different perspective, or from a different lens? If you had to put your sunglasses in, what would it look? It could look darker. If you took your sunglasses out, or if I took my contact lenses out, it would be all blurry. But what would I be seeing? So it's seeing it from a different perspective. Seeing it from a different perspective, what does that lead to? So that's called reframing it. So seeing it from, so if you have to say, I asked in the Think Shop, what is your problem statement right now? And we had to reframe it, and you replace the word problem with something more hopeful and more growth inducing. Then what would that word be? And I came up with opportunity, and there were some people in the group, if you can remember, was some people said disruptive. What is my disruptive statement? What is my possibility statement? What is my goal statement? So it was just reframing it and then seeing what's left and then going from there. Yeah.
And you know, it's such a beautiful process because you know, from my coaching foundation, is reframing is so important. And I always look at you know, your comfort zone. People often find themselves in a comfort zone and suddenly they're outside their comfort zone. And I always just, you know, to reframe that for people, I always share with them, well, if you only ask yourself a different question and ask, what am I learning? And suddenly your brain's going, well, you know, I don't want to really learn, but essentially the degree of your discomfort is the degree of your learning. And very often when people get to that really outside of my comfort zone moment, it's just a learning moment. And essentially if you do the reframing as you're suggesting, it's a beautiful technique, because essentially you're kind of going, oh, well, I didn't even know I had that as an opportunity, or I had that as a possibility to re-question my thinking process. I just want to touch and sort of just get your opinion on this. What I've also noticed doing a lot of coaching and sessions online and joining a lot of workshops and chatting, and one of the themes that are coming out is everybody knows everything they need to do, right? So, and everybody's now sharing this online, and one of the things that sort of stuck out with me, and I just want to get your take on this, it's, you know, off the cuff. People do know about a lot of stuff. They know that they need to think. They know that they need to reframe. They know that there's possibilities. But knowing about, and I think this is the sort of link that I'm seeing that people are not making, is knowing about knowledge. Having the knowledge about something isn't actual actioning knowledge. And I think, you know, that link between it is really important. Have you also come across that? Because essentially it's beautiful to know, you know, a lot of information, but knowledge that is not in action is just knowledge.
Yes. 100%.
How do you approach that? How do you see that from that perspective?
So I also acknowledge, and I also have noticed the disconnect between knowing and actually doing. So, and I think it comes down to the environment that we are in. At the moment, we are in a highly stressful environment, and the stress levels are extremely, extremely high. I think more normally than ever, because there's a lot of uncertainty. It's volatile. We don't even know if we're going to have our jobs or if our companies are going to survive in the future. So just to acknowledge the actual environment, I'm coming back to the foundation again. And what I've noticed is that keep it simple. That's where I think that the disconnect is starting to happen, is that it's already overwhelming. And now all of a sudden you're almost asking your clients, or you're asking people to now go and think even further. That could be more anxiety inducing or increase the feeling of overwhelmingness. So my thing would be, break it down. Yes, you've got this overarching goal. I mean, all of us would like to get out of this position with our company still running, our employees are still employed, all of that. We would like to go back to almost like what it was before, but it's not going to. So that's already an overwhelming state. But that's where the disconnect might be happening, is that to now push people to think these big thoughts could even be, could really just
overwhelming.
So my take on it is to actually break it down and say, okay, what is it that I need right now? That's why I say you acknowledge the now, you kind of understand where the future might be heading, and you have this idea of the future, the ideal future that you wanted to create. But forget about your 5-year plan, forget about the 3 months down the line. What about next week? What can you do right now just to make next week a little bit more bearable? Just to break it down to something very simple and very tangible. And through keeping that little momentum going, it might actually get people to start moving. But at the same time, again, they need to be ready to embark on it. If someone's not ready, they would have already switched the video off by now and going, oh, this is too much, I can't deal with it. 100%. That's perfectly fine. But breaking it down and actually acknowledging the simplicity of what what is still in our control, that could help with the buy-in and help with the motivation, so that when the little thing happens and you actually say, you know what, I want to write this little one-page article by next week, then, and you do it, then it could be like, oh cool, I just did that. Okay, what else can I do? That made me feel energizing, or it made me feel like I'm productive. And also, this is where I believe in the principle of quality over quantity. So you're not asking someone or clients to come up with this entire life purpose at the moment. What is the purpose right now? And how can that feed into a future you would like to see eventually? It might change. The journey there might be difficult, and it might change on a constant basis. I know from tonight, after the president's almost like the divulging of our soft unlocking, it might just throw everything out of the window again. But again, then you need to be able to come back and say, okay, what is going on right now? What is still going to be in my control, and what can I do about it? And it's just simple. It's simplicity. That's where I feel like I'm not saying it works all the time, but that's what I've been able to provide clients, is with that almost like a little safety net of saying, just do it small and see where it takes you. It's better than nothing. Quality over quantity, and also a little bit over zero. So.
And then lastly, now, I'm just thinking, I want to touch on 2 points. You have a reflection section at the end, but what I want to also just add to is, I know you also touched on certainty. And I think what I've also realized, and I don't think people often claim certainty to the degree that they should. Purely based on the fact that as a human being, it's a human need that I have. I need certainty about stuff. To whatever degree is up to me, but essentially, currently there is no certainty. And what I'm often sharing with people is what we do have certainty about is that we don't have certainty. And in itself, if you reframe it that way, well, I'm uncertain, or I'm certain about my uncertainty. Suddenly, it changes my uncertainty to a bit of certainty about the uncertainty. And I know it's a bit of play on words, but when you really, really, get stuck into it, you're kind of going, yeah, actually, we have a whole bunch of uncertainty that we're certain about. and when people just move that shift and rethink about that and how that affects them on a daily basis, it also becomes a far more enabling moment, because so many people kind of just get stuck in uncertainty and they just don't know. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't know. And it's really about creating a little, like you're saying, those little steps, because that in itself creates a bit of certainty, even if it's just for the next week. I think that's quite valuable.
Yes.
Then please tell us about the. No,
sure.
Karen, sorry.
So I think if you look at it from a psychological perspective, I mean, as humans, I mean, it's a very healthy thing to have a long-term goal or a long-term ideal future that you would like to attain and actually make. Because I mean, we all go through future, and future happens to us basically. So it's great to have this long-term goal, and it's healthy to have a long-term goal. But at the moment, with the stress and the high anxiety levels, it's great to have it in mind, but just put it on the bookshelf and keep it there, and start thinking of the actual journey that would eventually, hopefully, get you to a point where you would love to get. That's why formulating some form of ideal future and going, I would love to look like this, be like that, be able to do this, do that, to have some idea. It takes a little bit of imagination. And then you go, cool. Now, well, what could I do to just maybe get one step closer to that ideal future? And that's what, at the moment, it brings it back to the now. And then I'm asking one step, not 100 steps or not 1,000 steps, but just one step. And it could be just sending an email to an old colleague that could maybe help you, point you in the right direction, or actually spending half an hour on the internet reading about whatever it was, or the topic that fascinates you, that could help you get to the point. So it's very simple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you end up the sessions with a reframing moment. Not a reframing, sorry, I'm talking nonsense, with a reflection moment. There we go.
Yes. Yeah.
And tell us just more about that and why that's useful.
You know, it's funny because I'm not someone that likes to reflect. I was never a Dear Diary type of person. And
Yes.
doing my master's degree in management coaching at University Stellenbosch Business School, I basically, they put a lot of emphasis on reflecting so that you can actually grow and learn from the thoughts and the sort of adhering or acknowledging the processes that you go through. Even though if it's a failure, what are the lessons that you're learning from it? So they really made us really reflect through our entire process as growing as a coach and growing as an individual. And we actually had to write like a 3,000-word essay about our own reflections. So you can imagine that would have been, it was mind-blowing for me. I just couldn't. I was putting it off to the 2 days before. But what I learned from the thing is that there's a lot of models of reflection, and I chose a reflection model that really resonates with me. And I feel that it's quick, it's simple, and it can resonate with quite a lot of people. So that's the Borton's model of reflection. So you ask the 3 questions of just what happened, just superficially tell me the facts. What happened? Well, we logged on. Well, we first went into live Facebook chat, didn't really work. Then we came over to Zoom. Then we had this chat about this, we had a chat about that, and now we are here. Then I could ask you, okay, well, so what? So what was important about this? Well, actually, I just learned maybe reframing and changing my perspective over things could really help me to move forward or build my energy levels again, or provide me some hope for the future. And then I can ask you, okay, well, now that you know what is important to you now what? What are you going to actually do about it? Well, I can really go and sit down and really think about, I'm going to put an action goal tomorrow that I'm going to email that colleague to point me in the right direction or something like that. So it goes from superficial, just a little bit deeper, to what is important to you into an action plan. And I think that is and it's quick. I mean, you can do it in the car. I used to do it in the car on the way back from a client. Just quickly, what happened with a client right now? Okay, as a coach, what was important to me as a coach? What did I observe? And then, okay, now that I know that, now what? Well, next time I might not talk as much. Or next time I would ask this question rather than that question. So it's all about learning. At the end of the day, what are you extracting from the experience that you can pump back into your learning and your developing as either a professional or just as a human being? So reflection to me is where the actual power of knowledge and learning actually really happens. So so that's why
and that's that's the entire process. I mean, that whole workshop is really getting you to go from where you're at to the possibilities of what could be, and really getting your brain out and kind of going, yes, I never thought about that. That's definitely a learning I had, and I can actually reflect in how I've worked in the last month, or how things have changed in my work environment, and a beautiful process. So I'm gonna leave it to everyone to actually check it out online now. And how do we get hold of you on social media?
So I've got a personal Facebook account called Liezl Reid, but I've also got Shapeshifter Consulting as my company's page. So I prefer maybe people go through there. I've got a website, so www.shapeshifter.co.za. And then also I've got a LinkedIn profile, and I've also got a Shapeshifter Consulting LinkedIn page. And also, you can... My numbers on my website is pretty much anywhere. I'm quite reachable, and also I am planning on doing another Think Shop in a week's time. So next week, Wednesday. I'd realized that from the first Think Shop, things have already changed or already progressed since a week ago. And it's maybe a good idea to just give people that opportunity to come and think and deal with what is going on, and where does this leave you now, and where does it leave you going forward. So even if you missed the first one, the second one, you can quickly catch up and then do the hard work, and where I make you think.
Fantastic. And you've written for the blog, so everything we've just chatted about today, there's more information about it on businessbydesign.co.za's blog. And we can check it out on the blogs. We can check it out on social media, and all of this will be also posted on YouTube and everywhere. And we'll share it with everyone. Liezl, thank you so much for the time, and thank you for chatting to us. It's been fun, even though it didn't pan out exactly as planned.
We should definitely try it again, but live next time. So this is not a challenge.
Absolutely.
It's not a failure, it's a lesson.
Absolutely. I'm going to make it my business to find out how I can do this live and actually, because it'd be great to have people ask questions and really.
Yes, it makes it a bit more interactive experience. And that's where actually the beauty of this whole process lies, is getting people to really engage and be able to really partake in the experience. But Kevin, thank you so much for inviting me on this. I actually had a blast. I love talking to you.
Me too. I love it. It's such a nice moment of sharing information and making me think, as well. So thank you for that.
Sure. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. Thanks.
Catch you later.
Okay,
Ciao.
bye.